All right, so first things first. Hi, Isaiah Mills from Petition for Days slash Writing Project. Um, I said in my announcement video that I was gonna do my look back the day after. I decided pretty quickly after that was probably a bad idea. I wanted to give, I put out an hour and a half long video. I wanted to give people time to watch it. It's not reasonable to expect someone to watch that within the day. So then they wouldn't want to watch that, and it just kind of spirals. So I decided give it a week, give it a week, and then you can talk about it, and you can self-reflect and ask for feedback. So that's what we're here to do. I'm gonna talk about my video. I'm gonna talk about what I think worked. I'm gonna talk about I'm going to talk about what I think did not work, and go from there. And of course, any feedback is always welcome. Speaking holistically, I kind of didn't give myself a lot of time because I decided that I was going to. Originally, this project was going to be such that. Sorry. Originally, this project was going to be one where I just wrote it. I wrote an essay on everything I did for the year, and then put it out once a month, and that was that. I was just going to share it with my friends, and then I think just under or maybe just over a week before the video was out, I decided, hey, why don't I put it out as a video, because I want to get back into video essays, so that way I can train 3 things at once: audio editing, video editing, and writing. So I did not give myself a whole lot of time, because I gave myself a week, and then I spent 2 or 3 days on making the audio, and then editing the audio, and then editing the video. In the future, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do it more gradually, so that I can have more time. So I'll probably be recording the audio kind of as I go, maybe do it like once a week, where I just record everything I've done up to that point. That way it's not so last minute, because I ended up only giving myself 1 day to edit the video, as I mentioned in my announcement video, and that was not nearly enough. I needed way more time than that. So that's why it ended up being more of a slideshow than a video, which is probably one of my bigger regrets, but I am happy because I taught myself how to use the program for video editing that night. So I'm happy about that. I was using Adobe Premiere. And the audio editing, I'm pretty happy with as far as it goes. Embarrassingly, one of the things I'm most happy about is the inclusion, the way I put in the music from Once Upon a Time in the West. During that video, like, once I started talking about the music, I just had a little clip of that music. Loved that. I was really proud of that. That took an embarrassingly long time for me to figure out how to do, but I was very proud of that. So that was great. The video, I am just more looking at as being happy that it happened, that I did it. I'm not super proud of it as a video, like speaking strictly on the video aspect, not the writing. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, as a video, I'm happy I did it. It forced me to kind of teach myself everything again, which is good. But like, when not viewed as I'm coming back on using a new program, it's obviously not very good. But I made an hour and a half video in 7 hours, and I think that's pretty impressive. I'm proud of that. So let's talk about the writing. I'll just kind of go through them one by one. Some of them I'll have a bit to say. Some of them I'll just, a sentence or two. The first one I did was Ronin by Frank Miller. That one's fine. Well, it's not very good, but it's not interestingly enough bad for there to be anything to say about it. It was just, I didn't really like the comic. I got a text. I didn't really like the comic. I didn't really. I got another text. I didn't really like the comic. But I didn't dislike it in a way that was particularly interesting. I just thought it was mediocre, and I thought Frank Miller could do better than that. He did later, good for him, and then he stopped doing better than that really badly. Maybe one day I'll talk about Superman Year One, which might be the worst comic book ever made, and I love it for that. But yeah, there's really not much to say on this one, is what it is. Seraphim Wings, which was my next one, I'm actually disappointed in my writing on that one, because I think Seraphim Wings deserved better. I like Seraphim Wings quite a bit. I like Satoshi Kon quite a bit. I think he's a really interesting creator. I love Perfect Blue. I really, really like Perfect Blue, and I've read another one of his canceled projects. Opus. It was called Opus, and I like that one a lot too. So I wish that I had been further along in my writing journey for that one, because I actually wish I had offered better to Satoshi Kon, because I don't think I conveyed properly how good Seraphim Wings is. Seraphim Wings is really interesting. The art's really good. The writing's really good. It's kind of tragic. Well, it's very tragic that it was cut off before it could be finished. But I just didn't. I wasn't there yet, and that's okay. I don't like that one very much at all. I wish it was a lot better, especially because I actually do like the comic, but that is what it is. Fables Volume 1. This is the first, like, I think there's a bit of an uptick. I think Ronin and Seraphim Wings are both pretty badly written on my part. I think Fables Volume 1 is a bit better. And I think that's mainly because I liked Fables Volume 1. I had something to say about it. I didn't really like. I really just wanted to talk about the thing I found interesting, which was how it was using the comic book format. But I think that's great. I'm actually proud of that. I think it's good to talk about formats and mediums, especially when you're talking about comic books, which not everyone reads. So a lot of people won't really have the context. I've read over 900 comic books, so I have a bit of context on the situation. But I really enjoyed talking about what that thing did so well, and why it did it so well, and why it worked so well as a comic book, and using the medium that it was within. So I was actually like, that one has problem. That's not a great piece of writing, but it's the first one where I see like an improvement on my part, because I'm like, okay, I had something to say. I said it. I could have probably explained myself a bit better, but that's where I started seeing uptick. I'm happier with that one. And then I was just kind of on a streak. I did Fables Volume 2. That was one where I got much more political with what I wanted to talk about, and the way that Bill Willingham's, I think that's his name, Bill Willingham's politics made me uncomfortable in the ways I didn't like it. Yeah, that one's fine. It's not as good as the other one, but it's what I wanted to talk about. It was the part of that volume that interested me the most. I think it comes off as a little bit preachy, but I can be a preachy guy. I'm incredibly political. I don't think it came off super well there, but it's all right. Such is life. Fables Volume 4, I don't really... Once we're getting into the nitty-gritty of each volume, I don't really remember it, so I'm just going to kind of jump past that one into Kurt Cobain, Montage of Heck. That's definitely the most personal one. I talk about my depression. I talked about how stuff like that makes me feel. I think it's salvageable. I don't think the writing on that is great, but I think it's probably... because I kind of liked Fables Volume 1, but I mostly just liked it because it finally seemed like I was in. That's the first one where I think I could salvage that essay into something worthwhile. I don't know if I could salvage the other ones. That one is like not incredibly written, but I clearly had something to say. I said it, and I think I had some. I think I had something interesting to say. So, on a purely technical level, I'm not super happy with the writing, but I did like it. Like, I am happy specifically that I got to talk about that kind of stuff, and I think there's something I could work with there. Indiana Jones 1, that's dog shit, terrible, worthless, completely garbage. I think that might be my least favorite. I hate that one. I think it's just terrible. Like, I'm embarrassed thinking about how badly I think it's written. Just fucking awful. The only interesting thing is when I talk about adventure movies and how I miss those, but come on, man. Like, that's not exactly a unique observation. That's like a step and a half above talking about Star Wars in terms of like video essay shit. It's that one's terrible. I don't think there's almost anything good about it. I talk about like I stand by everything I said. Like, I don't like the Orientalism. I think that's a big problem. The sex stuff makes me very uncomfortable. Like, I think everything is like I would technically stand beside. I just think the writing's atrocious. It's like it's incredibly short, it's incredibly choppy. It seems like I'm just kind of floating from point to point with nothing cohesive going on. I think it's just atrocious. I can't talk about that one. It's terrible. Pacific Rim. Um, I I honestly, you know what I wish I'd done? I wish I had just turned the whole thing into me shitting on Charlie Hunnam. I don't have any particularly strong feelings one way or another about the writing there, but I think it would have been a much better piece if I had just spent the entirety of the time making fun of Charlie Hunnam, because Charlie Hunnam, A, is terrible in that movie, B, is atrocious in that movie, and C, is the only thing I really wanted to talk about. Like, I liked the action a lot. I didn't like the writing very much. But I honestly think the best parts of that essay, by a pretty good margin, are just when I'm shitting on Charlie Hunnam, because I think that's when I'm at my best. There is just relentlessly making fun of him. I should have just made fun of him for 5 minutes. I should have skipped everything else. I should have just been like, action's good. I don't particularly like the writing. Should have shortened it. Let's insult Charlie Hunnam for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. But I liked the insults. I liked insulting him. I liked comparing him to a underwear model. I thought that was funny of me. Light of the Jedi. Actually, I really liked the Light of the Jedi one. I think that might be one where I like it and no one else really will all that much. But I liked my write up on Light of the Jedi. It doesn't really get into the book all too much. I more just talk about the book as a vehicle for for talking about Star Wars and for talking about the High Republic as a new like storytelling idea that they're putting out. But I actually like that one. I think that one's pretty good. Yeah, I'm actually reasonably proud of that one. And I'd certainly rather put that out than reread Light of the Jedi with its entire second act being pointless. But I did like the first and the third act. I don't want to. It's a fine enough book. Third act's great. Third act's really good. Hostel 3. That's another one that I like, that I don't know if that will be the prevailing opinion. I had very specific things I wanted to talk about after watching Hostel 3. I wanted to talk about extreme horror as a genre, or some people call it torture porn, whatever you want to call it. I wanted to talk about that. I'm a huge fan of that genre. I watch it pretty much constantly. If I'm watching a movie at home, there's a pretty good chance it's horror. Like, it's probably an 80% chance if I'm watching a movie at home, it's horror by myself. And if I'm watching, and if that's it, it's probably a 6% chance it's probably something pretty hardcore. That's just what I like. I like that a lot. I might go into why sometime, but we won't do that right now. But, so I think I had something interesting to say there. Yeah, no, I liked Hostel 3. I liked talking about what made kills work or didn't, well, mostly didn't work. Entirely didn't work. That movie's not very good. What makes a horror movie work? What makes it tick? I think I could turn that into something good. I would probably use a different vehicle than Hostel 3. Maybe Hostel 2. I like Hostel 2 a lot more. Hostel 2 is the best of the series. But like, that's not what the project is. So I just think as a core idea, I think there's something interesting to say there. So I'm actually kind of proud of that one. Fables Volume 5, I don't remember which one Volume 5 was, so I'm just going to skip it. Palm Springs, I think Palm Springs as a writing thing was more like, it was me trying to do the Kurt Cobain thing again, but not as well, and like me getting personal, me talking about what it meant to me, which the movie did mean things to me, and I did like have personal takeaways, but I don't think I had anything like interesting to add to in any meaningful way. Palm Springs is a really good movie. I wish I'd had more to say about it, or more interesting things to say about it. I don't even think that one's bad. I think it's just kind of pointless. Like, my Palm Springs essay, like, it's not even interesting enough to like it's like not like the Indiana Jones one, where at least I can just call it a piece of shit and have a day. But the Palm Springs one, I really wish it was a lot better, because the movie's really good, but it's just not really there. Hostage. I like the Hostage comic book quite a bit, but that's another one where one of the challenges I think I'm going to make the challenge like a little bit bigger every time. So one of the challenges I'm doing this time for the February one is everything I do a write-up on will have a minimum of 1,000 words written about it. Maybe more, but nothing less than 1,000 words. And a part of that is because I don't want another Hostage. Actually, let's do a 1, 2, 3 punch. Hostage, Alistair Adolf, and Ice Cream Man were all things I kind of want to not do again, which is read it, not have any strong thoughts, and then write like 200 words on it and call it a day. I haven't been consuming as much media, but specifically, I want to. Everything will be 1,000 words so that I can, even if I don't feel like I have something to say, I'll have to find something. I think it'll force me to exercise, and that was a problem I had with all 3 of those. I didn't have much to say about Hostage, so I just kind of talked about the one aspect that I felt I had something to say on, which was the way that it uses monotony to reinforce the perspective, which I do like. I think I should have worked with that more. Alistair Adolf is almost entirely pointless. What is that? That's 1:40 long, and I spend most of it doing a plot summary. There's like a vague thing where I just alluded to the fact that I'm not all that interested in discussions of magic with a K. That one's worthless. And then Ice Cream Man, another one. I just had nothing to say. I'm not proud of that one pretty much at all. So just all those. That's why I'm doing the 1,000 words this month. So I'm not really happy with any of those. I need to learn how to talk about things I don't have strong feelings about, which is, from everything everyone who I've ever talked to who's done stuff like this, is hard, but that's the point of this project, is challenging myself. So yeah, not happy with any of those. And then I have the 2 Lone Sloan comics by Philippe Droulet. I don't think I could have done any better. I don't think it's very good, but I think the problem is that I didn't go to art school, and I'm not formally educated in art. I'm just a guy who likes reading comics a lot and likes looking at art sometimes, but I don't have like the technical background to talk about it. And I think specifically with Droulet's stuff, because the writing is almost a non-factor, the only way to talk about it is to talk about formalism and the way he uses specific things, and I just don't have the education to do that. So I don't think it's very good, but I don't think it could have been much better either. Read something by him. He's great. He's incredible. His art is next to none. We're skipping Fables Volume 6 because I don't remember which volumes. 310 to Yuma. I really like 310 to Yuma. I don't really like my piece on it all that much. I think it's too loose. Like, it doesn't really... I feel like I had things to say, but I didn't know how to say them, and I didn't back them up in any meaningful ways. Like, I just kind of alluded to vague thesis statements, but I didn't really back them up all that well. I wish it had been better, because I really, 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 really love 310 to Yuma. That's one of my favorite movies, and I just don't think I did any justice. And then we have Once Upon a Time in the West. That's another one where I didn't really know what to say about it, other than talking about the very long shots and stuff like that, which I ended up doing with Space Odyssey later. But despite the fact, I mentioned this earlier, but despite the fact that I don't think the writing is all that interesting, it did force me to work with the editing in probably not interesting to anyone but me, who is completely teaching himself and just doing it solo. But I'm happy. I had to force myself to do that video editing thing. And then we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Volume 1. That's where I ran into a bit of a problem there, which was I was talking about a comic book series, and because I started this project in January, just like a random time in my life, like not any kind of structure, I'd already read a bunch of JoJo's, and I'd already done all that stuff, so I couldn't I didn't feel like I could just do a talk about the series of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I also didn't really know how I could focus on that, so I just kind of ended up doing both not super well. I really like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think it's really fun. I haven't watched the anime. I've watched one episode. I didn't like it very much, but you should read it. It's good. It's fun. It's goofy. The poses are good. The art's great. But yeah, I'm pretty middling on that. I have just nothing to say. And then we've got Fantastic Four, Grand Design. I I think that was good. I think that, you know what, not good, but I think that one's all right. It's defensible because I really talk about the form a lot, and I talk about like specifics in comics, like not so many of these, especially the comic ones. Like I kind of wish I hadn't talked so much about the writing because comics is not. It's not just writing. It's writing and it's art. It's these two things married, and I think a lot of problems that people do when they talk about comics is they just talk about the writing. Like a comic book is just a book with pictures, which isn't. It's a different medium. Like people talk about it like the art doesn't really matter, and I think that's really bad because the art is incredibly important. I think you know I think great art can save a comic book with bad writing, but I don't think great writing can save a comic book with bad art. It can save a comic book with mediocre art, but with bad art, I don't think it can do it. So that was one where I talked about like the form and comics and what are you doing, Max? And I talked about art and I talked about like structure a lot. So even though specifically I'm not super huge on it, I think I could have done it better. I'm glad I talked about stuff like that because I think more people need to talk about that. I think a lot of like comic content I've seen is just let's talk about the writing for 20 minutes like this is a movie or a book or whatever, and it's not. And talking about the art, I think, is good. And the form. And man, I love the paper in the Grand Design series. I really do. That's such a boring thing to love, but it makes me so happy. And then we have Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby. I really like Jack. It just kind of ended up turning into me getting angry at Stan Lee and Marvel, which is fair. From what I've read there, it sounds like neither of them are particularly good. But there are so many things, like interesting things in that comic that I wish I talked about. Like there's a whole thing where the artist and writer, draw Jack Kirby in different sizes at different times in his life, which is usually like proportional to where he's at. So like when he's getting screwed over really hard, they draw him very, very small. And then later on, like when he's kind of up and up, he's bigger, and they kind of like play with that a little bit. I like that. I didn't talk about it at all. I just talked about how much I hate Marvel and Stan Lee. So, but also, to be fair to me, fuck Marvel and Stan Lee. So, who's to say? 2001: A Space Odyssey. This one sucks. I liked 2001: A Space Odyssey. I just didn't like know what to say about it because I found it so like weird and well, I guess that's not even true because one of the things I mentioned was that it is like a lot of it is pretty normal movie wise. Like it's an AI trying to fuck people over. Like that's not maybe Seinfeld isn't funny, but that's not like a crazy concept. You see a lot of that. But I didn't have too much to say. It was a movie that I ended up like if I had tried to kickstart this channel just talking about random things that interested me instead of like cataloging everything, I wouldn't have even bothered. Because Space Odyssey 2001, especially because it's like one of the most well-respected films of all time and one of the most well-loved films of all time by one of the most well-respected and well-loved directors of all time. I ended up in this place where I felt like everything had been talked about, so I just kind of like alluded to stuff and then didn't have all that much to say. Yeah. And then we have Abandoned in the Old Tokyo. I actually like that one. Overall, if I were to grade myself holistically through this month, I'd give myself maybe a D. Probably less. Like, Indiana Jones certainly deserves an F. But I give myself like a D or a D plus if I was in a really good mood. But Abandoned in the Old Tokyo, like I enjoyed talking about alt comics and about the ways that different alternative mediums from different countries by different people still kind of approach things in the same way, and the ground level view that they take. So I actually kind of liked it. I want to read more of his stuff. I think I've got another one of his comics here. Do I? Yes, I do. I've got another one of his. I'm going to read that pretty soon, I think. And then hopefully I can talk about him and I can do it better this time. Up myself to like a definitive D plus or maybe even a C minus minus. So yeah. Also, I think my dick joke's funny. Sorry. I think my fruit bowl dick joke is funny. I enjoyed that joke. It made me smile. I'm sorry if you thought it was bad. It's fair if you thought it was bad. I didn't. It made me laugh. And then the Muppet movie. The Muppet movie is great in such a cohesive and holistic way that it's hard. I found it difficult to talk about because the Muppet movie is just good. Like, it's so obviously good. Like, I don't know how I would have a discussion with someone who didn't think it was good. I don't know what I would say to them because it's just, look at it, watch it. It's good. It's clearly good. Everything about it is good. The characters are good. The writing is good. The jokes are good. The music is good. Everything is good. It's just fun. It's just a good time. It's just a good time, fun movie. And so I ended up in this place where I just had nothing to say about it because it was like, no, it's good. It is just generically, and not generically as an insult, but just like, what is there to say about it? It's great. You should watch it. The Muppet movie rules. So, yeah, that's where I end up with that. Looking at it holistically, I did that at the beginning, but I'll just do, I guess, a wrap up. More than anything, I'm happy I did this because it forced me to get back into the saddle. Even if I feel like I didn't do very well, I did it. Every number is bigger than zero. I tell myself that all the time. That's like a mantra I live by. Every number is bigger than zero. Like, if you do one push-up, that's infinity times more than 0 push-ups. If you write 100 words in a day, that's infinity more than 0. And this is like what I'm reminding myself of. Even if I don't think it's good, which I don't, I did it. I did something. And the only way to get better at things is to do them over and over again, and you don't start off good. No one starts off good at anything. So here we are with my not very good video, but it's a video I made. It's a video I put together, and I'm proud of that. And then this has been my retrospective. February's gonna... I'll just talk about the February video quickly. I'm really hoping to get a microphone before then. So I actually just recorded the audio on my phone, which is why it sounds atrocious. So I'm getting myself a nice microphone pretty soon once I've got the cash. So that'll be good. I don't know when I'm going to have a camera that looks good, but I'm only going to be doing it for my look backs. So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it, when it becomes when I feel that it's important or more important than the everything else aspect of the situation. But I've been consuming a lot less media because the first week of February was dedicated to making this video and putting it together. So I consumed almost nothing during that period of time. And then I've just kind of been like not doing so much. Like right now, I've got 2 written up and I need to write up 2 more. So overall, like halfway through the month, I'm doing this on the 14th. I've done 4 as opposed to, I think it was like 20 something in here. But that's okay. I've done the 1,000 word challenge for this one, so that'll be good. I am hoping to include quite a bit more video. It'll just be clips and stuff, but it's better. It's something. It'll still probably be pretty slideshowy because that's what this was. This was a slideshow. This was not anything other than a slideshow. It's still going to be probably airing closer to that, but I'm going to start trying to take steps, especially because I'm going to give myself more time to make this video. Because when I made that video, I started at 10 p.m. because I came home from work and I took a nap because I was tired. And I was like, okay, when I wake from the nap, I'm going to start the video. So I started at 10 p.m. and I had work the next day at 6, which means I have to start getting dressed at 5:15. I started exporting the file for the finished video at 5:10. So I just worked on it all night, like the whole way through. So that's not something I'm looking to do again. Like, I'm hoping to record the audio as I do this, when I get the microphone, and all that stuff. So hopefully I'll have like 2, 3, 4, 5 days to make the video so I can make it better than this one was. One of the actual Hostel 3, it was a writing thing that I liked more, but I really feel like I kind of failed myself with the video part of it because I think I could have really included a lot more images from the movie or like, you know, been like that, and I didn't, and I wish I had, but that's something I'm focusing on this time. Getting the writing done, and I'll hopefully have a microphone. So those are the improvements I'm wanting to make. I want a new microphone, which I'm going to have probably pretty soon, hopefully. 1,000 words on everything, and giving myself more time on the video. The audio, I'm mostly happy with. Like, it's not professional, it's not great, but I think that's just a practice makes perfect situation. But the video is really where I want to improve myself, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Give myself more time. So I really wanted to get it out before I went to work, and so as a result, I rushed 7 hours. But that's something I'm going to fix. I'm going to give myself more time. I'm not going to be on quite as tight a deadline. Still coming out on the 7th is the current plan. It is now the new norm that these look back videos will be a week after, not a day after. I think that was a dumb idea, which you are now seeing the results of. So, those are the plans. Tell me if you had any specific thoughts, anything you thought worked pretty well, anything that you thought sucked, specifically stuff that I missed. So, try to be nice. This is the first thing I've done in 5 years, so I recognize it mostly sucks, so please don't just call me a dumbass and go out. Tell me why it sucks, and I will agree with you and try to improve it. So, step by step. Thank you for watching, if you did, and I'll have a new video in 3 weeks.